Professor Haystacks here, and just as a note to start with, I'm doing a review of the season opener, Celestial Advice. I would like to note my new things. I've got a picture of Luna up here, a TARDIS portrait, and there's some random bric-a-brac on the table, which you can't see because the camera is not pointed correctly. But there's little pony Steven Universe there. Anyway, so I'll start with a general review of just the first episode, and then I want to go into some general comments about the arrangement of episodes this season, and then I have some notes. So in the episode's cold open, we have Spike showing his mad distraction skills. First time I saw this, I was like, what is Twilight measuring for? When Spike asked her what she was wearing, I half expected her to say, nothing like usual. I don't know that we've seen her wear really anything, and she doesn't wear anything to the ceremony either. And when Spike suddenly turns around to face him, it's almost like a distraction kiss. I know there's some Spike Starlight shippers out there. And of course, then we have a pun on the name Sparkle. Oh, hey, look, it's Moondancer. I can't see what I'm pointing at, but she is in fact in the crowd scene. I'll circle her, which is good. I was bit concerned that we would not see Moondancer show up again. I am a bit concerned that she may never get another speaking role. But on the plus side, she has been seen and been referenced numerous times since Amending Fences, which is good because, you know, the moral of that story is about not forgetting friends because you're a careless jerk. At any rate, we know there are a lot of changelings. We have to wonder how many there are. Perhaps the audience is entirely made of changelings, only some of whom are in their base form. Rolling back a bit, we see that Pinky has apparently improved on the party cannon design for a rapid decorating. Starlight appears to be the only one amused by Discord's antics, which will be important later, but I rather like that. At least someone finds him funny. Trixie might as well, but she probably wouldn't admit it. Now, we have where they get the necklaces put on. Luna struggles getting it on Thorax. They need clasps or something on this. And, I mean, how is he going to get it off after that? One assumes he's not just going to wear that forever. I mean, he could shapeshift to get it off, but then why not just shapeshift to get it on? I mean, Discord did some magic shifting thing to get his to fit. Anyway, also, Starlight is again amused by Discord, which she's fairly consistent on that. All right. We see Celestia get some personality throughout this episode. Discord, early on, it's not clear what his game is. It seems like he's just causing trouble. Based on what he says later, if that's true, then he might just be very bad at sending signals. He should probably just go for being straightforward. Anyway, we have here changelings talking to Rarity and Applejack, saying that makeovers are essential to friendship. They apparently have a lot to learn. Also, briefly, we see that Discord's disguise glasses drop perfectly onto Thorax's nose. Also, Discord is in the T. That's very amusing. He's in the T. But in Discord's speech to Twilight, it is incredibly unclear if Discord actually believes what he's saying or if he's deliberately being a jerk or if he's really that clueless. In fairness, if Twilight had just told the truth in the outset, he wouldn't have actually caused that much trouble. And one wonders if maybe that was his game, showing that the supposedly good characters have their foibles. Hard to say. I don't know. Anyway, she goes off to ask Celestia for advice, and Celestia gets more uh, characterization. Now, at this point, I kind of thought Starlight was actually going to get sent away. It wouldn't have taken her out of the show altogether. Episodes could still focus on her. Celestia is suggesting that's the right move pretty blatantly. We see later that that may not have been her intent, but that's certainly what comes across. Anyway, a little further on, Discord seems to get jealous of someone else getting attention. And it's also, again, unclear if he actually believes what he's saying to the cast or if he's just causing trouble. Really, really unclear. It seems implied that he knows that Twilight is fibbing, and from what we see later, using that to try to push her into a particular decision. But he seems half sincere here. He's hard to read. Moving along. Here, we see that Twilight apparently has a holodeck spell. That would be very useful in a theater, but... But first, now on to Twilight's fantasies. First, this initial part is pretty much how it would go. If you have a disagreement, then attack, which technically does resolve the issue. I mean, maybe play rock, paper, scissors for it would be a slightly less violent way. Also, why can't they just each get something different? I mean, is there a particular reason they have to get the same thing? I'm a little unclear on that. It's like the explanation of Garfield and Friends for the Buddy Bears, that there was a show once upon a time where a group of kids, one wanted get hot dogs, and the other 5 wanted to get pizza. So the lesson was that the guy that wanted to get a hot dog should just go along with the people that wanted pizza, as if they couldn't all get what they wanted somehow. I mean, go to a food court in a mall or something, people. It's not that difficult. Honey and peanut butter is quite good. I have had it before. Little rich. It's not bad occasionally, but I would assume honeysuckle pairs similarly. The honey from honeysuckle, incidentally, is delicious. You can, get it out of the honeysuckle blossom, and it's just a drop of honey. It's pointed out that this is basically Twilight's fantasy. Most of it actually does seem like something the parties involved would do. Maybe not use the word perspicacious, but... Do you know that the evil changeling here seems to be ginger? I mean, it has freckles. Color scheme relative to the other changelings is a little bit different. It feels kind of like a low blow. Not sure what's going on there, but the fly swatter is incredibly funny joke. I'm not sure if changelings can manifest objects like that, but it was pretty funny. Okay, so how is Celestia not aware that she's an expression? Now, she may have been joking when she said that, but in fairness, she does live a relatively secluded life. It's possible she legitimately wasn't aware. A bit ambiguous. Ember on the tiny throne, heavily amusing. This does not seem like either Ember or Starlight. Totally, dudes. Yeah. You can't actually see my arm, but they're yeah. Clawcella and the former king, highly amusing. Also, there's some sort of illusion. Anyway. Starkle Light Star. That's not as good. But Twinkle Star, I actually like that one. That could be an actual name. But with diving into lava, Starlight could shield or teleport. Really, honestly, either one would work. And how would you fall into lava without realizing it? This is the convection spinvection thing. I mean, get anywhere vaguely close to lava, you will feel incredibly hot. It is not cool. Heat actually moves through the air, The last fantasy, I actually like this one, and as a Sunlight shipper, I was kind of hoping for this. But we see Baby Flurry Heart, so cute. This one does seem like something Starlight would do. Possibly Sunburst would have cooler heads prevail, possibly not. I think okay, now, breakdown. Star Swirl's apparition spell plus, I think it's Spatiae Inflexibus. Their pronunciation is not classical Latin, it's more ecclesiastical, but I digress. I think they're trying to say unbendable space or Somnambula's Tempus Objectis Somnambula, first of all, would be something related to sleep, I think. But Tempest is time. I'm not sure what they're saying with the last words, objectis, subjectis. It's possible they're trying to say object time or maybe subjective time. Anyway, I think the point here is space and time plus apparition equals moving an object through time and possibly space. Though what Twilight pictures is actually something going the wrong way. It appears that they are being themselves sucked into the past, maybe. But this is the thing from the promo. So misleading promos are misleading. Weird. Another possibility is it leads to another dimension, which might explain where all the random crud in Discord's Chaos Dimension comes from. And then we get Celestia's laughing fit, which is still kind of funny. I'd also like to point out that in the premiere, they repeat the promo for the premiere in the middle of the premiere and still claim it's a two-parter, which is a half-truth at best. I will address that more at the end, but Celestia claims she wasn't laughing at Twilight, but she was laughing at her a little. Next, we have the blackboard in the background of Celestia's flashback. Sun plus magnifying glass plus rainbow equals 2? What? I have no idea what that's about. Anyway, and then we have Spike here reminding Celestia that he cannot in fact see what she is thinking. Apparently she doesn't know that spell Twilight was using earlier. Easy to forget. Anyway, that you can't see what she's thinking. Anyway, it's a Canterlot friends. Now she worries about people not talking to her, but Moondancer talked to her. I mean, or at least at her. And here we see Moondancer talking to, I want to say it's Lemonheart, which admittedly we were seeing it through Moondancer and Twilight's filters in Amending Fences, but she apparently didn't talk to the others much. Anyway, her options here are closing the library or throwing a party. Throwing a party would work. I'm not entirely certain what closing the library would do except tick off a lot of unrelated ponies that had nothing to do with it, but I digress. Now, we also see Celestia very clearly missing Luna, and we find out in a subtle bit that Celestia may not have intentionally meant that sending Starlight away was the right thing to do. It subtly indicates that sending Twilight away was situational because Twilight's problem was that she wasn't getting out and talking to people because she was in too much of a protective bubble. This is the academic bubble people talk about, only taken to the extreme. The bits of Celestia's fretting is kind of the most characterization we've heard from her. And in Ponyville, we have all of them at the yearling stage, with Pinkie apparently living there full time. Now, that's weird, because they're the equivalent of teenagers, and where the heck are Pinkie's parents? I mean, it could buy in the flashback from Pinkie Pride that maybe her parents visited Ponyville regularly, but here it seems like she's always there, and they've almost never visited Ponyville in the present. I think they did it once. It's very weird. Anyway, the guards don't know what to say, and it's... What is going on here? Celestia didn't read Moondancer, so why does she think the Ponyville people are so special? I mean, does she have some sort of harmony sense? I don't know what's going on there. Also, about worrying about sending Twilight away and her ending up in Tartarus. Well, Tartarus is maybe half a day's run from Ponyville, so that's not an unreasonable concern. We also see Celestia appears to see Twilight as a surrogate daughter. As far as we know, she doesn't have any children of her own. And she experiences basically empty nest syndrome, which is what parents feel when their kids move away. Toy Story 3 was partially about that if you kind of read between the lines. Anyway, I don't know that I really like the conclusion on it because I like to keep my toys, and Toy Story 3 seemed to be saying I'm a monster for not playing with toys that I like to just look at. But anyway. Now, here we see Celestia embracing Twilight with her wings, which is something we've seen Pegasi do. It shows that alicorns can have fine motor control of their wings, but Twilight hasn't ever done anything like that with her wings. I'm assuming because she hasn't gotten used to it. But anyway. Now, over here. Discord seems to have known here that Twilight was actually coming up with an announcement at the last minute. Is that malicious? He may have genuinely thought he was being helpful. It reminds me of the bit in Bender's game in Futurama where it says, "You're actively harming me, you idiot. Why would you think that was helpful? How stupid do you have to be to think that's helpful?" It reminds me about that. We also see a dramatic gasp. And also, Twilight leaves out laughter, which seems kind of mean to Pinkie Pie. The future's in her own hooves. We also see here, Discord's goal was apparently to get a roommate. He really was not coming across like that. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway. Setting free, there's Gorpfest. I don't know what she's saying that. And the mischief he talks about here about various cheese-related puns. First of all, I think that's kind of funny, and I think Celestia would probably appreciate that gag. I'm a bit of a Celeste Cord shipper. But anyway. Also, hey, Skier from her village is there for some reason. I don't know why the other villagers, they may have been there and I just didn't see it. Also, I'm well aware I'm being cut off in a lot of this video at this point. Now, the line I thought of watching this episode, I think the first time I saw it, was something like a little bit different than what Twilight did. It was something like, "So, where do you want to go now?" I mean, it's the same basic premise on rewatching what they did works as well, although it's less explicit. I guess maybe I'm not giving kids enough credit because I would have spelled it out for them a bit more. But anyway, she can choose wherever she wants to go, and she chooses to stay in Ponyville, which, you know, that was the obvious conclusion, but Twilight didn't want to lead her to that. And at this point, I was still thinking it'd somehow wind up as a two-parter, and it did not. The next episode, as we know, was basically unrelated. Anyway, and we see a brief shot of Pinkie Pie doing a very quick cleanup. It does seem to be an improvement on the party cannon. And we have a standard closing theme. We've seen some variants. Last season, there were a good many variants, but standard one this time. All right, now a few points in general. First, the season premiere for this was repeatedly advertising as being a two-part season premiere, which it was in the sense that there were two episodes aired on the same day that were new, but the two weren't connected. That was very misleading, and the promos for it showed things that turned out to be Twilight's fantasies, also misleading. I'm reminded of comic books that had to start putting not a dream, not a hoax, not an imaginary story on the cover because of how many times those things would happen. I'm a little worried about what that says about Hasbro's advertising department, that the ads they're coming up with seem to be intentionally misleading. That is rarely a good sign when you have to start intentionally misleading people. Now, mind you, I don't know that they have to, but we combine this with the trend of many Brony conventions closing down, although at least part of that is people finding out it's expensive to run a convention. And rather concerned for the future of the fandom. I've only got one actual Brony convention to go to this year, Nightmare Nights Dallas. What? And I'm worried I may not even have... What? Okay. I'm worried I may not even have that next year, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, now, for some general business here, I'm not going to be reviewing right now the next two episodes. They weren't bad. I don't have a whole lot to say about them. I did want to mention this one because of empty nest syndrome and teacher-student dynamics. I hope to go into teaching at some point. Well, partially. I want to do research and teaching, but I digress. So that was interesting. And also, I've been a bit busy lately, and I definitely want to make sure I cover next week's episode, which is about Maud getting her Roctorate. It also indicates that Roctorate may actually be an official term, which is kind of weird. But anyway, So I'm expecting to have a lot to say about that. I'm actually kind of hoping I'll do a quick analysis by myself as usual, but I am hoping I can get some other PhD students and or recipients on the line to do a group review of that. I've got people I did a panel with at Nightmare Nights last year, and one other guy that I may or may not be able to get on Skype. We will see what happens. But very interesting people. Hope that they can, help me shed light on the episode. We'll see what happens when we see it. At some point, I'm planning on doing a, original character review, which is what a lot of people do. I don't, because that takes a ridiculous amount of time. But I might try to do something for, at least one episode this season. I'm also hoping to get into some collaborative projects until my next convention that I'm going to in May is passed. That may not actually come together, but hopefully after that point it will. It's one Heartsy Artsy, the queen of collaborative efforts, is putting together. I'm hoping to get at least a bit part in that. Not going to try to review every episode this season, which is what I kind of did in the last one. Maybe shoot for every other. I found often I just didn't have a lot to say on the episodes. But definitely going to do this ModPie 1 coming up, and we'll see what happens after that. All right, so once again, I'm Professor Haystacks. This has been a review of Celestial Advice. Good night, and drive safely. My little pony, something da 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 da. Don't know the words, you are my very best friends. Still have time left, you are my friend.